You be welcome to train all the different
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey, this is Jennie Kwan, and I voice Suki on Avatar The Last Airbender. You are watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. Today we are going to be continuing our Avatar The Last Airbender interview series. And this week we have a special guest on the show, the Kyoshi Warrior Suki herself, Jennie Kwan. Thank you for coming on the show today, Jennie.
Hey Pat, thanks for having me.
So to start things off, kind of from the beginning, you've done both live action and you've done voice acting. I'm curious, what got you really into the voice acting aspect of things? Because, completely two different aspects. So I'm just really curious kind of what got you into that.
Yeah, so just kind of a little quick background on how I got started even in the business, just so you can hear how it kind of parlays. I started when I was 11, and basically it's kind of like a Hollywood story, but I was discovered on an airplane. Oh. I used to be in a singing group called Kids of the Century, and we had traveled to New York to perform for this Statue of Liberty commemoration. And I won't tell you what year, so it doesn't age me. So we were coming back, and literally it was like I was sleeping with my head on my shoulder, and like I was drooling practically. And anyway, my sister woke me up. She was my chaperone. She's like, Jennifer, there's this agent on the plane. And I was like, I don't care, so, but anyway, she got me to go up and meet her. And it was like out of a movie scene, like all my, castmates, they were all like juggling and doing all this crazy stuff, and walk up to her and she's like, do you like acting? And I'm like, no. She's like, oh, well, if you came home and tried an acting class, would you come to my office and meet me? And I was like, okay. I was super shy when I was young. Anyway, so we got home, met with this agent, so on and so forth, and tried a class. I loved it, and I started acting, but I didn't book anything. No on camera, no singing things, no theater things, until I auditioned for this cartoon. And the cartoon was Little Shop, based on Little Shop of Horrors, the musical, except it was a series for Fox. And I auditioned for actually the singing voice of Audrey. So my first paying job, I think I might have been 16, was a voiceover for Audrey. So that's kind of interesting, because when I was younger, like I dabbled in voiceover, and that was my first job, but I would, in and out do some voiceover things, but mostly it was on camera for the most part, the earlier years.
Cool. That's interesting. Yeah, you got started as the voice of Audrey. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how did you end up finding out about Avatar, The Last Airbender, and what was the audition process like for Suki?
Well, by that point, I had, an agent for my voiceover work. Sometimes with agencies, I'll just say, let's just say for Los Angeles, and this can go for East Coast too, but my agency at the time had a division for, voiceovers and commercials, right? So sometimes they'll have a department for theatrical on-camera stuff, TV and film, and then commercial and voiceover. So just like any other audition that came through, this audition came through, and the process was fairly typical of a voiceover audition. I got the signs or the copy of the script, and I just read for the part. And at that time, a few years ago, we would still go into our agency, and our agent would record our auditions. And so, sometimes I'd be driving to my agent every week, or a few times a week, and I think at the time I did not live close, to where my agency was. But at the time, you drove, you read the copy, they edited it, and they sent it off. So that's what happened. I'm trying to remember the exact process. I think I sent my audition in, and then the next call was a callback at Nickelodeon. That's what it was. And I remember that. I remember going in, and I love the Nickelodeon set. It's cool. And I went in and just read the sides that they had given me, which basically was the first scene that I'm introduced in as Suki. So yeah, it was pretty straightforward and fun.
Cool. And that's actually, I was going to ask you, I was like, if you remembered like which particular scene it was. So it was like the first time that we actually got to like meet the character.
Right. Yes. So, they wanted to hear my version of what this young warrior would sound like, how I would embody her. Yeah.
Awesome. And originally, Suki was only going to be, from what I thought I saw, was only like one episode. But then
Correct.
by book three, she kind of became more of like a, reoccurring like main cast like character. How
Correct.
quickly did you find out that you were coming back, and what was that conversation like?
There really was no conversation about it. I literally thought that I was coming in for a guest spot because that's what I was told. And then what happened was I was on tour with a show called Avenue Q, it was on Broadway for many years. And then they did a Broadway national tour and I had booked that and I was on the road and they were like, "Oh, they're bringing your character Suki back to the show." And I was like, "Oh, cool." Just thinking, hey. And so the thing about that was I wasn't always home to do the session. So, I mean, now I'm like, wow, I feel so grateful to be a part of this. But one time I was in Michigan, and they had to find a studio in Michigan for me to record, one of my parts. And sometimes I would be home and then I would go into the studio, like, this was off and on, throughout the period of the show. But when I was out on the road, I think that happened twice. I want to say it was Michigan, and I don't remember the other city I was in that we had to find another studio. But I didn't have to do anything. I just showed up, which I was like, wow, like it was cool. And at the time, our director, Andrea, she would patch in to what we use now, which is called Source Connect, right? So with everything happening in the pandemic, now all us voiceover people, we get patched in. And I did a session the other week and they were in Japan and I was in my studio here, right? But back then, we didn't have to do that. So it was really cool that they really wanted me to come back and they didn't find someone to just match my voice and I could just record, on the road. When I was doing my parts on my own, so then later on I found out that the reason why I was coming back, and that wasn't really the intention, but I think the fans really liked Suki so much that they were like, please bring her back. And I thought, oh my gosh, it really does work. So thank you fans for doing that. Yeah, I felt very, very grateful for that.
And that's cool because like here, like me, like thinking of, I just figured it's like, oh, like, you got brought back, you probably went to, you know, either like a similar studio that you like recorded at before. Like that's pretty wild to think that you kind of just were at like kind of different like studios and recording these parts and then getting them sent off. So I didn't realize like that's how that worked at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, aside from being on the road and then recording at Nickelodeon a few times and then a couple other studios that we use here in LA for voiceover, that was really cool to just be able to do that from anywhere.
And when they told you, so when you got, you got brought back and you thought it was like a guest spot for, something, another like character or something like that. Did they tell you, was it just for like the one episode again initially, or did they tell you like, hey, you're going to be coming back for like several like episodes like in the future at that point?
Yeah, no, I would just come back when they would tell me to come back. And I was like, cool, I guess I'm in another episode. I think, probably in passing, it was like, okay, I think we might have another episode for you to come in. But, at the time, and this kind of is just the thing, it's like, as the performer, unless you're a series regular on the show and you're coming for a guaranteed number, sometimes and sometimes you don't, and in this case, I would just come back as needed, and I was happy to come back every time. And I was surprised sometimes when I would come back. And then toward the end, yeah, it was kind of more like a reoccurring role that I was like, oh, I love this, like, thank you.
No, that's awesome. I mean, that's always a good surprise too, to
Yeah.
keep being asked to come back to the show. So
Yeah.
now, and it's safe to say, obviously, Suki, the most interactions that she had in the show was with Sokka. So what was your experience like working with Jack De Sena, and did you guys actually get to work together in the booth? And then just like, any behind the scenes stories you might
I
have
have
with
a
him.
cute story. I have a cute story. I hope he doesn't kill me for saying this, but I remember it was one of the times when I was home, and I think I had maybe met him once, or maybe I can't remember if it was the first time I was meeting him, but we just were recording together, and I think it might have been the Serpent Pass episode where it was, like they're pretty vulnerable with each other, and I remember it was at one of the offshoot studios that we record at. And so because it was just the two of us, they didn't need a big booth, right? So it was really teeny. And I remember, like I think he was like on his phone or something. And again, I think we'd met maybe once, and we were just kind of talking, and he was like, and maybe he thought I liked him or something like that, and I'm much older than him. And so when he found out I was much older than him, he's like, okay, I'm cool. Maybe she doesn't like me. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, it was so funny. Like, that was the vibe. And he's so super sweet. And it was a really good recording session that day. So it was just funny. I was like, oh, I'm the same age as you, huh? Okay. Just kidding. But yeah, I think maybe he thought I was like, hey, but I'm much older than you, so no hey.
No. And
Yeah.
what, to kind of tie into that, what's your favorite Suka moment from the show, and are there any other characters that you wish Suki would have, gotten to interact with more, maybe a little bit more?
It's interesting. Going back and watching the show, God, I think there's so many great scenes between Suki and Sokka, obviously, because they're love interests of each other. But one of my favorite episodes, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm tearing up, and I feel like so emotional about this, is Appa's Lost Days. And oh my gosh, I even think about it just because, um, watching how they brought the character to life, and even the things that the I can't even talk right now. My brain is fried. The water bison goes through, right, is a character in his own, and the emotional journey that he goes through, and getting beat up, and getting taken by the circus and this, and I was like, oh my god. And one of my favorite scenes is that Suki gets to find him, or she finds him with the other warriors, and at a very, very low point in his life, right? That he was, separated from his soulmate, right? And other half. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy that she got to discover him and help him. Like, I really, really, really loved that scene. And I was happy to be a part of that. Let's see, any other characters that I would have liked to have, I really like Katara's character, and May does such a wonderful job with everything with her. I would have loved to have more scenes with her, like more women empowerment scenes with her, and just kind of see how that would have taken off. But I'm really happy. Even the scenes that I did see, a couple in the later episodes, that they kind of have a little bit more interaction. So that was really, really fun.
And I don't blame you. I know Appa's Last Days. I know that's quite a sad episode for quite a few people. So I don't blame you for getting a little emotional with that one.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting. I remember at the time, I think I knew that it was kind of an important piece there, but watching back, I get to see the whole reason and the whole depth behind it.
You really
again, as a viewer.
Yep. Yeah, it's completely different. Now, So, throughout the show, you popped up, you were in that first episode, and then you kind of popped up a couple times, then you're kind of more of that reoccurring character. So we got to
Mhm.
see a couple different outfits of Suki. So I'm curious, what's your favorite one? Is it the Kyoshi Warrior? Is it undercover as the security guard? Or at the Fire Nation?
That's really funny because I was thinking about that too, and I love it when different people send me images and artwork, and because I love Halloween first of all, and I go all out, and I yet to have to do my character.
Oh, you got to
Of
do it.
Not yet. But of course, I just love the intricate details of the actual warrior costume, the garb. And I've seen some beautiful renditions that people do. Oh my gosh. And I've actually started looking into, people who might design costumes for cosplay. So if anybody's out there, hit me up, But I love that costume. And it's funny because I am born and raised California girl and living at the beach. Just even her casual outfit at the beach, I like at the Fire Nation.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, it reminds me kind of how I am, casual in California, and just she's just in her bathing suit, and but it's a little bit more. I don't know. It shows a little bit more skin of hers, to a tasteful degree.
Yeah, no, and I would say I'd probably have to agree with you. I think the warrior costume is probably my favorite. I know a lot of people for like some of the other, characters and stuff. A lot of people seem to like the Fire Nation take on like everyone's like costumes, but I would say I'd have to go with like the classic like warrior costume myself. So,
Absolutely.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's certainly not short of strong, female characters. At what point did you realize the impact of your character had on, the show and the fans like around the world?
You know what's really funny? I think I'm just slow to this, so just bear with me here. I did California Dreams, before I did Avatar, and I wasn't on the first season of California Dreams. And um, when the show started airing, we started getting fan mail, actual mail that's mailed to you. And it's interesting. It actually hits me more now too. But when I started getting fan mail from people or young women saying, I've never seen anybody like myself on TV. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like me or who looks like me or who's funny or what have you. And thank you. And I kind of was like, whoa, it didn't really hit me until then. And then again, so years later, or as a show starts to air for Avatar, people will contact me and just really say, this got me through a difficult time, or I really look up to this character, which I do too. Like the thing that I take from Suki is even if she gets scared or has fear, she still goes straight towards her goal with the fear, with determination, and with tenacity, which I'm like, we could all use more of that, right? Like those sayings that just say, um, I can't even think of it in the moment, but courage is going forward with fear, right? And that's what I think she does. And so when people write me as the actor thanking me, I'm like, well, it's really just, it really is a whole team, right? It's the character who she embodies, whatever I brought to it, and also our director who's like, let's try it this way, and all this kind of stuff. But I'm always I really take that to heart, that I'm able to make an impact for people, and that's just what I want to do as an artist. That's what I've always wanted to do, and I hope I get to continue to do that if it makes a difference for someone. So it means a lot to me.
Yeah, and I would. It must be just really cool to have a character hit like like you're saying like hit home so hard for a lot of
Yeah.
people, and have that character be everlasting too. Now
Oh
the show was
gosh.
on 15 years ago, and now it's on
Yeah.
Netflix and stuff and everything, and new people are discovering it. So to still have people, reaching out to you and stuff. Yeah, I imagine that must be, really cool.
Yeah, I was just doing a session the other day, and the director was like, "So how does it feel to have the #1 show on Netflix?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, did you not know Avatar's the #1 show on Netflix right now?" I was like, "Oh, I guess I should go and research that, And so he was like, yeah." I'm like, "Maybe I should post about it." He's like, "I don't think they need any help." But I was like, "Okay,"
Yeah,
but
I actually saw something. I don't know if you were aware of this, but I guess it also, I'm pretty sure it broke a record as far as staying in the top 10 on Netflix. It was like 58 days, like in a row that it was in
wow.
the top 10. So I don't know if it's still up there, but that was the last that I had like saw it, and that was like, I think that was like a record. If not, it was like right near the top for all the Netflix
Wow.
shows.
I'm
So
so, again, like, when people tell me that, I'm like, cool. My girlfriend was watching it the other night, and I don't remember how it came up in conversation. I don't know, maybe she was talking to my husband, but he's like, oh, she had told him that her and her boyfriend were watching the series from the beginning. They were binge watching it for quarantine, and he's like, "Do you know that Jennie plays Suki?" She's like, "What? I didn't even know it was her." And I've known my girlfriend, for years. So
that's
I'm like, "Oh,
hilarious.
good, good. I embodied the character fully. So
That's
that,
awesome.
yeah.
And what was your favorite scene to work on for the show? And then what is your favorite scene to watch as a fan? I know we kind of like talked about that a little bit earlier, but a
Mhm.
scene to watch as like a fan now.
Yes. So again, I thought that I loved working with Jack, at that for our scene together, which I just thought was very, very sweet. I loved that. I always love working with people in person, and I love working with a whole cast as opposed to a lot of the times when you're doing your recording sessions. For the most part, you're going to be on your own. But one of my favorite times was when we were recording our last scene, our last episode, and the whole cast was at Nickelodeon, and it was so amazing. I was like, oh, this is so fun. And my funny story about that, I'm going to sound a little bit airheaded, but in my defense, you'll understand why. So the whole cast is at Nickelodeon, and they had to set up the studio where all of us could be together. And so some people I couldn't see because they were like in a separate booth because we were all, packed in there. So all of us were in the main studio, and then again, some people were, you know, like separated, but just by, like a sound booth. So, we're recording, the last scenes, and all taking our turns, our parts, and I hear the Fire Lord, and I was like, "Whoa, that's wow!" Like that, he fills a room, and he's in the sound booth, and this and that, and so then after the show's done, they had like a little wrap party in the courtyard, and we're all just kind of talking about stuff, and we're like, okay, and I was just talking to this guy, and I don't even remember what we were talking about. Just I don't know if we're talking about voiceover or just small talk, uh, and then so later, then they're like, "Hey, Mark, come over here," and like he was like, "Okay, bye." And then so later, I find out that it's Mark Hamill. I'm like, "You're really not smart right now, girl." Like, but not like I would have done anything different. But I was just like, "That was amazing," and I didn't know he was the Fire Lord. Like so. That was really cool because I remember without even seeing him that his presence really just filled the whole room. It was just like, whoa. And then just he was a very, very nice person. Like just afterward, just very sweet. And I think, Star Wars fans would just go nuts. But now like I was like, "You're very sweet. Good luck to you."
So I was gonna say, did you get to like talk to him like one on one, or was it kind of just like a passing thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're just in the courtyard, just, like eating cookies. But the funny story about that too is I remember this is kind of like, I'm gonna uh, diverge off the track a little bit, but when I did Avenue Q, before I did Avenue Q, the tour, the producers wanted to try a stint in Las Vegas. They were trying to bring Broadway to Las Vegas. So Avenue Q was actually at the Wynn. And I remember that Bobby Lopez and Jeff Marks, they're friends with Mark Hamill, so he was at the premiere too. But I didn't know. Like I didn't. There were so many people there. I couldn't even. Like it was just too much. But I remember that he was there too, and people were like, "Did you see that Mark Hamill's here?" I was like, I gotta go eat a sandwich. I'm starving. Okay, you know. So, but yeah, he was there too. So it's a very small world. It's a very small world.
That's fun.
But I didn't tell him because I didn't know it was him. You know, like when we were talking.
That's so
I
funny.
would have. I'd been like, "You were at my premiere."
So both times being in like the vicinity, like you got to talk to him like briefly, but like both times you were kind of just like, yeah, I don't know, like who you are.
Well, I mean, I knew he was at the premiere at Avenue Q, but again, it was too many people, so I'm not gonna, bother him. But in the situation at Nickelodeon, we're on the same job, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just, getting to know people. Yeah. But we didn't get to talk before because we were all just already there, so it was just at our little rap gathering.
Now, I have to ask you, I've asked, the others as well, what are your thoughts on the upcoming live action Netflix series? And is there anything that you would like to see, like any direction you would like to see that the show go?
Well, I know that, there was a film that came out prior, which I only watched bits and pieces because I was like, okay. But I did look at the cast for the upcoming live action, and I think it's going to be pretty good. And I like the young girl they cast for Suki. So, and I think she's Filipina as well. So I was like, cool, get it, like let the tradition live on. So I'm hoping that, it looks promising. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah,
they can bring the magic that they did to the series so people can really enjoy that.
And now with them like releasing it, the cartoon on Netflix, having all these new fans, like I'm sure once that show's like getting ready to come out, I'm sure we'll see if that can break the record that you guys just recently set on Netflix with the animated
just
show.
Kidding. I'm gonna pass the torch. I will pass the torch with graciousness and welcoming. So, yeah.
And so I don't know, this is something that I'm not sure, how much you would know about, this, but like Suki, she isn't mentioned in The Legend of Korra. Was there ever any discussion or, bringing up the character onto that show that you were like aware of at all?
I was thinking about that. I had auditioned for Legend of Korra a couple times, but not for Suki, for other parts. But it definitely was a different vibe. So, I didn't really press the issue too much just because it's, just very different.
Curious, who did you audition for on the show?
Oh, I don't even remember. It was in the very, very beginning.
Very beginning. Okay. Did you ever, and I know there's like the comic books that kind of continue the story after Avatar. Did you ever come up with like any kind of story of where you kind of saw Suki go like after the show? Is that something that you've ever like kind of given thought to or no?
I mean, I would think that she would continue her life journey of helping people because that's what she really wanted to do, wherever she could do it. So my thought is that she would continue to do that and keep, making strides towards, bringing the nations together type of thing.
And you talked a little bit about this earlier, but what was your experience what has your experience been with the fans just over the years, with the show?
We're very, very lucky on all ends to have such a beautifully written show that has a lot of depth and a lot of lessons that people can get without it really being bashed in your face, right? Because it's so well written that it just happens naturally. And actually people have told me that too, just through them contacting me. And I've done a couple anime conventions, and again, just the fans are just so gracious and always so excited about the series and the different characters that they really like, and um, I think really feel a really special connection, and I'm so appreciative of that. I'm so appreciative of that. And, um, to this day, like you're saying, with the resurgence of it being on Netflix, that people are like, hey, can we ask you questions about that? Or thank you for, you know, just being such a great role model. And again, like I couldn't ask for anything more, for that. And it's interesting, like I was saying, it kind of hits me slow. When I start getting that kind of response, I'm like, oh, I did somehow make an impact for someone. And I just, yeah, and if it just makes someone, if it changes someone's day, awesome. For better, for worse, at least it's making you feel something, right?
And yeah, no, I think with the show, one of the crazy things about it is, because man, I saw it, a while back, and then like recently, like rewatched it like again, and rewatching it, for like multiple times, like now, just some of the lessons and some of the like
Yeah,
themes and stuff like that that you don't pick up on necessarily, as like a younger like viewer, but then you go and watch it as like an adult or a little bit
yeah,
older, and you're just like, wow, this show had a lot of interesting topics and stuff like
absolutely.
that you don't expect with a Nickelodeon or like shows like for kids usually like that young. So I think that's really cool that you can watch it multiple times and get different things
Yeah,
from it every single time.
absolutely. And I mean, I'm not going to say this about myself, but just my fellow actors on the show, so good, like so it's seamless to me, how everybody was able to really just live their character, and the acting is just on point. Everybody's so great, from the series regulars to all, everybody who's come on. So good.
And you did an amazing job too. I'll say it for you.
I don't know. I'm like, what was I feeling at the time when I watch it? But, thank you.
You're welcome. And is there anything else that you would like to say to all the fans out there, and like anything else you'd want them to keep an eye out for that you're going to be appearing on projects, things like that?
Let's see. I mean, if I haven't said it already, thank you for going on this journey with us, with me, and taking an interest and contacting me, and still having, love for the show as we do, and keep watching and living out those life lessons, however you take it. And, these days, fortunately, I have, been doing a lot of voiceover work. So I don't know if you want me to say anything, but I'm on another Netflix series that's a dubbed series, and it's actually quite funny. It originated in Asia. It's called Scissor Seven, and I play this awesome assassin, which I'm like, yes. But it's really cool. It's a quirky show. It's called Scissor Seven. So I play 13 on that show, and a very different sort of warrior, on that, but very great storyline for her. And a lot of different video games I've been working on, and a couple things that are coming out this fall. So just to kind of, if you have any, inclination to visit my social media, you can find out more information on that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, definitely make sure to check out those upcoming projects. Check that out on Netflix. Follow, she's on Instagram. Check out her website as well.
Yeah.
And thank you again, Jennie. I just really
Oh my God, thanks, Pat. Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on the show, taking time out of your schedule. It sounds like you're obviously super busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
You caught me on a good day that I was super productive. I had a session this morning. I was editing right before, and I was like, Pat, can we start 10 minutes late? But thank you for keeping up on me. And, it's always good for me to remember these things, like, especially in a time when it's like, what's happening? You know, is there any good stuff going on? And if I can bring some good stuff and put it out there, then my job is done.
Thank you again so much. I really appreciate it, Jennie.
Of course. Thank you. Hey, this is Jennie Kwan, and I voice Suki on Avatar The Last Airbender. You are watching Pop Culture with Pat.